Confab, confabulation. 音の科学者グアムへ。
As age 12.
Yeah.
That's very early.
That's early. Definitely is.
So can you tell me a little bit about that? Like how did you get involved at such a young age? And
So it's amazing. Well, thank you for having me, Samantha. It was a pleasure to be here to be on your show. Yeah, it started, like it says, 12 years old. It started from my father, actually. And I guess all my family say that's where I got my grassroots from him. And I believe so, too. He was a community activist in Flushing, Queens, where I grew up. He started the Block Association. He started the community patrol. He had he did his own security in our building. Like he was a security guard in the bottom of the building. He was also the super of my building. So in my neighborhood growing up, everybody knew me as, little Bracey. And I kind of took that. So when he had his community patrol, I would man the radios. So when the people were out patrolling the area, I would watch the station. When I was 12 years old, and if anything was going on, I would have to call 911 for the police and have them come over.
wow.
So yeah, I was active at
That was
12
an
years old.
important job.
Yeah,
That's definitely an important job.
and it was crazy growing up because a lot of the police officers knew me because they knew my father, so they knew me. So just imagine, back then I'm hanging out with my friends and the cops roll up. Back then, as of today, we see cops, we get a little shook. So my friends would be like, oh, here come the cops. And they'd be like, hey, little Bracey. And all my friends are like, yo, man, how you know the cops? How the cops know you? So it was kind of rough a little bit for me growing up in that atmosphere and all the police officers knowing me, but it was cool.
That's interesting because so you kind of had a different view of the police than maybe some of your friends did.
Yeah, we did. So actually now in Flushing, the Bland Projects where we play basketball at, the cops will come over there and pick us up to be in a lineup. So say they arrested somebody and they needed some 4 or 5 black kids to be in a lineup, they would come to the park and get us. They would pay us $10 an hour.
Get out of
to be
here.
in the lineup at what's the precinct? 109 precinct in Flushing on Union Street. So they would pay us $10 an hour. We go sit in the room. They'll have the criminal, whoever's in the room, and then us. We sit there. The people will come in and pick if they pick one of us, that means the criminal got free. Nothing happened to us because all the cops knew we were good kids on the block. But yeah, and we did that a lot. We look forward to that because that was like an extra, $20, $30 in our pocket.
Wow. So this was like a positive experience with the police.
Yeah, this was back in the early 80s. Yeah, early 80s.
Did any of your friends get picked or like accidentally at all by the police or by
we did. Yeah, we did. The criminal got away. Like they weren't, oh, that's him, and then we got arrested. None of that happened. None of that happened at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. So would you say that you just had back then it was just a different relationship with the police, or do you feel like this was something that was just kind of like you were kind of lucky to have this experience with the police at that age?
I think it was a different relationship with the police because the police back then was very involved in the community. So they knew a lot of us especially they knew me, but they knew a lot of us in the area. So, we of course every neighborhood has some knuckleheads, and they knew who the knuckleheads were, and they knew who the good kids were. We were either in the park playing ball, or we grew up in the Flushing Boys Club, which is around the corner where I lived at, which kept a lot of us out of trouble because we had a place to go, and we had counselors to take us, play basketball and swimming and all that other stuff. So we grew up in it was a diverse neighborhood too. So it was good. It was good, yeah. So I had a good upbringing in Flushing back then.
That's good. Did you ever run into any experiences where you had to deal with racism?
Not really. It's funny because I spoke to a friend of mine. He's actually he's a councilman in Orange County, who I grew up under. He was actually one of my basketball coaches, but he's a councilman in Orange County. And I went to his golf event, and when I got there, I didn't know the dynamics. I just knew he was campaigning, and it was a golf event. So I went there with the Plush Vodka. Until I got there, and you start looking around, you be like, a little out of place here. So there was not a lot of me there. And then I saw the sign, "Make Orange County Great." And I was like, and it was red and white. So I was like, wait a minute, I'm not a Republican thing, but he said he was a conservative. But I'm like, nah, this is a Republican. But when we were talking, and his wife, we was like, we didn't see race back then. We didn't really see a color. Like, I would go to his family's house and have dinner at their table on Saturdays and Sundays, and I'm like a black kid, 9 years old, and he had a bunch of brothers and sisters, and we all sat and ate. It was no color, black, white back then growing up. As we got older, you see how things has changed, and yeah, but we didn't even learn that younger. We did not have that at all.
So how is Plush Vodka doing?
Plush Vodka is doing phenomenal. We started 4 years ago.
So delicious. Very delicious vodka.
Yeah,
Women love it, right?
Oh, yeah. It's the only plum flavor vodka. Well, the first plum flavor. Someone else got a plum out now, but with the first plum flavor vodka, we got the sexiest bottle. Nobody's bottle is better than ours.
Definitely. I have to agree with that completely.
So we started 4 years ago. Last year, we were in about 80 locations. This year, we're in over 700 locations.
Wow.
So we're growing, still growing. New York, New Jersey, PA, Georgia, California, Florida. So we're not in every state, but we are growing rapidly, which is a great thing. And then we just launched a cigar too. We launched a cigar last month. We got Plush cigars, yes.
Very nice. Very nice. I'm happy for you on that one. And how has this affected you at all? Like, slowed you guys down in any way, this whole pandemic?
Actually, it helped because people weren't going out. They were going to the liquor stores were open. They're essential. so
Yeah.
Liquor stores were open, and our sales actually increased during the pandemic.
Wow, that's surprising.
People were going because they weren't going out, so they were drinking at home. So they were going to the liquor store and then coming home and enjoying themselves. So that was a good thing. Our sales actually went up. So
that's great. So tell me a little bit about how you got involved with entrepreneurship.
I think that's nothing that kind of, my father kind of passed on to me because that's what he did as far as in the community. And he had his own wood shop where he would make things. He would make lamps and all type of carpentry stuff. So I kind of watched him. He was a hustler. Like that's what he did. He did that. So he would even cook dinners for people in my building. Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas dinners. They would bring the ingredients to him, and he would cook, and they would pay him. Like that was his thing. So he had that. So I always saw how he hustled, and so that's how I got that embedded in me. That's
awesome.
Yeah, going into the Plush Vodka, a friend of mine invested in the company, and my friend Sharice, and she told me about it, the launch of the investment. So I went to the launch and I met Malcolm, who's the owner, and we chopped it up. And he was like, I need somebody to get Plush in, uptown, Harlem area, Manhattan, Harlem, the Bronx area. So I was like, all right, cool, I could do that, I said, but be prepared because I know a lot of people. He's like, yeah, I heard you know a lot of people, but that's cool. I said, all right, cool. I said, but just just be ready because when I touch things, my reach is long. So it was all right, cool. And then a month and a half later, he hit me back. He was like, yo, I wasn't expecting all that to happen. You got all these celebrities in my bottle. You got this, is that. I wasn't. He said, no, I need you to be part of the company. So I said, you know what? Let's not you and I do that. Let's your lawyer, my lawyer, let them negotiate that, and then we just keep doing what we're doing. Let them handle that part of the business. So they did, and my lawyer got back to me. He was like, let's go. You ready to set? Let's go. I was like, all right, cool. So now, I'm a part of the company now.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So tell me, let's talk about the people that you know, okay? Because we know that you had two shows back in the day, and you were a host, and there's some footage on YouTube of you interviewing Jay-Z and a number of other people.
Yeah.
What was that time of your life like?
That was a fun time. My friend John Ribeiro, he's a video editor, and he was working at BCAT at the time. And he was like, actually, he was Queens TV first, then BCAT. So he was like, hey, there's a show, Video Rewind, that no one's doing anymore. Let's do a video show. You just got to, interview people. So I was like, I don't really know what to do. He said, yo, just get in front of the mic and just interview people. So I reached out to Big Les, who was doing Rap City at the time. And then Ralph McDaniels, who do, of course, Video Music Box. So I know them both personally. So I was chopping up with Les, and I practiced my first interview on her, and she was giving me tips on what to do. Then I reached out to Ralph McDaniels, and he and I chopped it up. And then I started doing it. And I interviewed everybody from Dionne Warwick to Montel Jordan to DMX to Tamia, Jay-Z, Puff, like the Locks when they first came out, Next when they first came out. I mean, I've interviewed so many. Carl Thomas, before he came out with his first interview, I interviewed Carl before he came out with his first record. So
I remember Carl
yeah.
Thomas. Wow. What was it? What was your craziest interview or your most memorable interview that you've had?
Oh, so one of my most memorable was, I think, was Tamia. So I interviewed Tamia, and we were talking. So I said to her, do you want a mint? And she was like, what? Do I want a mint? She was like stunned. I was like, yeah. She was like, what? My breath. I was like, I'm not saying that, but do you want a mint? And she bust out laughing. She was like, oh my God, no one ever told me my breath was smelling. So she and I cracked up. And so that I'll never forget that, because she wasn't, and this is when Tamia was popping. Like, she had first came out, her first record.
Beautiful.
She was all over the place. And for me, just to be like, yo, you need a mint. Like, when we started this interview, she was like, wow. So I remember that. And then I remember my best interviews, two of my best interviews. One was with LL Cool J. Okay. I did that at Camp Cool J. That's on the YouTube. We got to find that on YouTube. That was good. I got to kick it with LL, and we played basketball against each other at Camp Cool J. And what happened was, when we played, we bumped knees, and both of us were in pain. And oh my goodness! To this day, if I see LL, that's the only way he will remember.